The more of those words you fill up in your conversations, the more easily anyone else will accept anything you say as being inherently true, because you will bypass their critical factor. Hi, my name is Matteo, and for the past years I have been teaching conversational hypnosis, sleight of mouth, and all sorts of NLP language patterns to hundreds of people all over the world. And close. Eyes open and exhale. The main excuse I keep hearing from people who say they struggle with mastering a conversational hypnosis and using those techniques in their everyday life is that it feels like learning a whole new language and they don't know where to start. First of all, a little bit of reframing. It is not a new language because I will ask you to pinpoint which specific word does not already belong to the language you speak right now. If you speak English, you already know all of the words. So it is not a new language, it is simply about using your vocabulary that you already know in a different manner. From all the words we are going to see here, you don't need to use all of them at all. You need to pick a few ones, maybe 2 or 3, that seem really more intuitive for you and to start using them, placing them in as many of your phrases as possible. The classical exercise is to say in your head or remember any kind of phrase you have ever used when you were attempting to convince somebody else, to persuade somebody, to make them trust you, to make them date you eventually, to make them heal if you are a professional coach, and notice what kind of phrase pops out of your head when you attempt to help somebody or make someone change. Then you are going to write down this phrase or imagine how many of those words that we are going to see here could you have been placing in that sentence, and how could it have been changing the meaning of that sentence? Would it have been more eloquent, more persuasive, less controversial? Many ways you can alter your persuasion skills to make them more effective. Number 1, unconsciously. Unconsciously you might start to notice a few things about your life that you haven't considered yet about how to become more productive in your everyday life. What would happen if unconsciously you could start to envision yourself as a much more competent person at your job, a much more successful person? If, I know it is impossible right now, and if unconsciously you could start to become much more productive in your life. Do you have an idea of what would that look like? The word unconsciously helps to make a suggestion pass through, or below the critical factor, because you're not implying the person should think like this right now. You are implying a part of their mind unconsciously, so it is not themselves directly, it is unconsciously a part of your mind might start to think about that. It is easier to give a suggestion like this with the word unconsciously inside it than if you try to make somebody obey something you say. You should do this. No. What if unconsciously you could start to envision a few things about that matter specifically? Number 2, the word before. Before presupposes something will happen anyway. Many times when you want to give a post-hypnotic suggestion, for example, some clients or some patients will have reluctance. Well, I don't really think I'm capable of doing that. You say I should quit my job that I hate for sure, but it's too complicated, too many financial struggles. Sure, before you finally quit your job, what do you think needs to happen first? Everything is covered right here. Before you quit your job. So I am not implying you should, you will, whatever. I'm presupposing it will happen anyway, whether you want it or not. Before you quit your job, what do you think needs to happen first? And I end with a question, what do you think needs to happen first? Therefore, their mind is forced to answer the question at the end of my language pattern and don't really criticize the underlying part, which is my suggestion. You will quit your job that you hate. Obviously, that's something you don't want to quit. But if you already mentioned you hate it, then I want to make a suggestion about before you quit it anyway. What do you think needs to happen first? Number 3, the word stop. And we see that word being used many times by hypnotists of all kinds, of all sorts. The word stop, to catch the attention of people and make them stop their critical thinking also. Or even any kind of thinking. When people just think too much and worry about many things, you can tell them about how you can stop all of those and start focusing on what's happening right now and right here. That is kind of an interruption to some extent, to get back their attention here and now. The word stop, in my opinion and from my experience, will work better unless you are a stage hypnotist and it is kind of expected you do that anyway. Otherwise, if it is in a regular context of life, maybe in sales, for example, I don't think it is that relevant to say to a client, stop now. I don't think it is going to work like this. However, I am suggesting you could use the word stop in a story or in a quote or in some analogy about something that happened to you. You might say, for example, I know Johnny, you don't believe in all of this hypnotic bullshit that doesn't work on anyone, hypnosis is just fake. I definitely agree with you. And I used to think like that. And someday I opened one book. When I read the first chapter, I stopped immediately, looked at that and considered all the things I hadn't thought about related to hypnosis. And many of those things in that book made me consider new things about how hypnosis might actually work for me. Do you want to hear about what I discovered? In that case, many people won't resist anymore because now I have been leading your mind slowly but surely up to a new suggestion. Hypnosis will work for you. I don't try to force you to believe that. I make your mind slowly go toward my belief instead of forcing it. And the word stop is helping the person's mind to stop the critical thinking and go to what I want to say, focusing more on what I want to say with less criticism. Number 4, the word become. Become is a transformational verb or like an activation verb. Depending on the versions of the Milton model, we see different definitions for what is it. The word become, the verb become, is very helpful whenever you want to make a controversial idea pass more smoothly. If I tell you that I know it is impossible for you to change your life right now, and I am asking you, what would it be like if somehow, someday you could become the person who might find the ways to change your life? If someday you could magically somehow become somebody who has found the ways to change your life? What kind of images pop up in your mind as you think about this, as you ponder on who did you become in that version of reality? And I'm not implying this will happen for sure. I am saying that maybe some parts of you could become a new version, could develop new skills that will make you become a kind of person you currently are not, that someday you will be. The word become helps to make people shift from a stagnant, stuck, rigid thinking and mindset to something much more malleable, discover new things about themselves and develop new skill set that will make them change their life eventually, if that is something they want. Number 5, remember. Pretty easy one, because whenever you want to guide somebody's mental processes into a new direction, when you want to make people accept new kinds of suggestions, it is much easier if you use what is already inside their mind instead of trying to impose something new. If you have never read anything about philosophy, about psychology, about political science, then any theory I give you belonging to one of those fields will first be resisted if it is something you don't really like. If I want to preach about the Freudian psychology and how you wanted to your mother or your father when you were a child, which I don't really believe in, but let's say this is true. If I try to impose that on you right away and you have never read anything about Freud or about psychoanalysis, that will definitely get resisted. It was resisted by me when I first heard about it, for sure. So instead of that, if I call out for one of your memories, can you remember a time when you had some sexual dysfunction or some sexual frustration in your past? Can you remember some moments like this? Now, what if I was telling you this guy named Freud which I have many concerns about personally, but let's say I believe in that. This guy named Freud discovered a theory about that. Would you be interested into hearing about it? And then slowly I can guide your mind into believing what I want you to believe based on a memory you have actually lived. So the word remember is very useful and helpful to make you associate, or to make me associate, anything I want to say with something you already know to be true, something that has already happened to you. In which case, since the unconscious mind loves to create links to figure out the meaning of new things, it will be easier and less resisted if I link anything I want to say to something you already know to be true. Number 6, the superlative, better. The word better will be used when I kind of want to suggest that anything you have done so far has value. Anything you have done so far in your life that you may believe you have been doing the right thing, I respect that you have been doing the right thing for you. And I will suggest that there might be eventually an even better way of doing the old things you did so far. When somebody is kind of stuck and resistant with, yeah, I hate my job, but that's all I have to do and I cannot do anything else. Sure, I definitely agree, you cannot do anything else. Now, if it was possible to suggest to you there might be a better job or a better way of doing your current job that would make you less struggling at it, into it, with it. Would you be interested into hearing about it? Yes, no, maybe no. In that case, I can shift to another language pattern. In any case, I like to make people envision, consider, ponder on more interesting resources and options for their life. So when you use the word better, you're suggesting there might be something more useful for the person, and also even if a method you want to propose, even if a suggestion you want to make is nothing revolutionary, like maybe something people have heard many times, like, oh, in order for you to get more relaxed, you need to do meditation. Yeah, big news, dude, no one has thought about this. Now, instead of that, if I suggest that I have recently read about an even better method of relaxing yourself. It was a method that talked about a breathing process I had never heard of personally, which implied the diaphragm and blah blah blah. And in the end, I don't say anything new. I just use the word better to condition your mind to like what I'm going to say next. Number 7, improve. Whenever people are stuck in a problem frame, and we see that we study that in NLP, what is a problem frame, what is an outcome frame? The idea is to make people shift from I am a victim, whose fault it is, and who's to blame for my pain, to outcome frame, how the hell do I get out of this? Some people are just stuck into problem pessimistic frame. No, nothing is my fault, I'm just a victim. Fine. Making them go into an outcome frame, the word improve can be of massive help here. What if you could improve your situation? Oh, I agree, you are definitely a victim and there is no hope for you. Now, if I could suggest that there was a way to improve your situation, which might even be a bit too direct, I could talk about myself. What I would like to tell you right now, Johnny, is that someday I was in the similar situation as you have been into. I know your life right now is pretty tough about this topic. Maybe your relationships, maybe your social settings, maybe your job, and I know it is pretty tough for you right now, isn't it? Now, if I may share a bit about my story, I have been going through things that were similar, not identical, but similar. Someday I definitely improved my situation, definitely. And I can see some parts of your life right now that could eventually improve in the same way. Do you want to know about it? Then I pause, and then from there it does not matter what I say. I can talk about any overly basic meditation technique that's going to work, because I have preconditioned the mind of the person to make themselves a change linked with what I'm going to say next. Obviously, that works when you have already established a rapport. That's not going to work that well with somebody who doesn't trust you at all. Number 8, far from, or far away from, or just far from anything. This one is on the other direction than all the things we said so far. It is when you have definitely said something that is heavily resisted. Like you mentioned, even outside of the therapeutic context, maybe in a more general way of life, maybe talking about politics or anything highly controversial, or money or religion, anything tense for people. If you said something and you noticed you just had a really negative reaction from the person you were interacting with or the few people you were discussing with, you can say that all the things you have been talking about so far were really far away from all the negative connotations they have thought about. So you need to first question people when they have some beef with something you said. You question them specifically about what do they don't like about your approach, and then you just reframe what you said. For example, you really don't like my capitalistic views because all the rich people are exploiting the poor. I definitely agree with you. And if I could explain more thoroughly my point of view, I could show examples that explain that my vision, my version, and what the things I study about capitalism are very far away of exploiting the poor. If you let me explain that, I will show you it couldn't be further from what I preach for. And same thing, then I will need a bit of understanding of what I'm talking about to continue on that topic. However, the fact of having said it is far away of the thing they don't like about what I say, then anything else will be received more smoothly and more easily by their mind with much less resistance. Number 9, the word realize, which is another activation verb. We often see in hypnotic scripts the word imagine, which is kind of the same thing. I prefer realize personally because I think imagine is already presupposing the thing does not exist. Whereas realize, at least in the English language, I think realize presupposes more than the thing you're going to realize is something that was going to happen anyway. Because when you think about it, when people have realized something, we intuitively, I guess, think about somebody who was meant to realize that anyway. When Johnny, the person who works a factory job, realized it was not his real life path and he became an entrepreneur or anything he wanted to become, or an artist, realized presupposes it was meant to happen. Imagine works if the person really trusts you, but imagine could be resisted, the word imagine. The word realize, which has the same intent to plant a new suggestion in the mind of the person, but I think it is more easily appealing to something that the person will consider as being meant to happen anyway. What if you could realize that 2 weeks from now, there's going to be a massive change in your life? I don't know which one is going to be. Maybe it is going to come from inside yourself. Maybe it is going to come from one person you are going to talk to in presence or on the phone or whatever. And you are going to realize that this event makes you understand things about your life you have never understood before. Never. What could it be? In your opinion, if you were to realize there is one such event happening in your life very soon, what do you think could that be? And then that event will definitely not happen in the way it has been imagined here, but the fact of planning, conditioning the mind to envision positive things, it will make the person move toward those positive things anyway. Even if the specific event will not happen, but at least it will make their mind start considering new options. Maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that, maybe this person is more interesting than I thought. And slowly they will build a much more empowering life. Number 10, the word if. And if is the opposite of when, because when you want to condition somebody to change, you tell them when you will change. That is a more assertive and affirmative way of making people go into a trance, when you will go into a trance, when you will drop into your unconsciousness. Yeah, that is a more direct way. The word if, though, that is often dismissed in traditional texts about hypnosis, is, I think, very relevant because many times, especially in the beginning of a conversation, you will get much more resistance than later in the conversation when the person has already started to trust you. especially in context where you talk about something you're not an absolute expert on, the person might have a bit of reluctance to really listen to you and trust you. In those cases, if you say if this could be right, if this could be the truth, if by the end of this video you could start to master all of those language patterns, if that was possible, what do you think you would do first with all of that knowledge and all of those skills? That will pass by into your mind more easily than if I say, when at the end of this video you will master all of that. You might say, yeah, just stop your bullshit, it's not going to happen like that. And you will be right in that case. But if I say, if at the end of this video it was possible to master all of those language patterns intuitively in the back of your mind, if it was possible, then what do you think you would do first? What do you think you would change first about your life, if it was possible? The word if is really helpful too, to make the person accept a suggestion that would be just seeming impossible usually. Number 11, the word develop. Now it is a kind of transitional verb or also some kind of activation verb. The word develop will be very important, I think, whenever the person is in a stagnant state of life, is in a kind of really stagnant, nothing is really changing, moving, it's kind of depressing, nothing is really new in their life, they feel like it has been 10 years, they just keep turning the same loop again and again. In that case, when I talk about something they really don't think they will achieve anyway, because let's face it, they are just a piece of shit anyway, so why would they ever be able to succeed at this? Sure. Now, I would like to question, what if you could develop the skill that will make you move forward? I know your life has, I know you have been depressed for the past 10 years, and if it was possible to develop the kind of means that would make you more confident about the possibility you are going to achieve massive dreams from right now, what do you think you would do then? Always end with a question. It distracts their mind from arguing with the suggestion you made just before. If you could develop the kind of skills that would make you a master hypnotist by the end of the next 10 days, for example, what do you think would happen then? Who else would you be able to influence if you were becoming a master hypnotist at the end of those 10 days because you have developed the kind of skills that could allow you to do so? Number 12, the word after, which I admit is my favorite one to bypass resistance in a coaching session. After you have succeeded at this, you want to build a company and you're really struggling, it's tough, and you don't really think you will be able to achieve it completely. Now, if I was to ask you, after you have successfully built that very company, how will you celebrate? How would you want to celebrate? Even better, how would you want to celebrate into this new future you have built for yourself? After all of the people that used to betray you, annoy you, after all of those people have been shut down because they are out of your life for good, what kind of new freedom have you developed then? Developed again. After you have gotten rid of all the toxic people in your life, which new relationships have you been able to build because of those ones being out? So the word after, the time frame presupposition that I love to use, is helping to make people envision themselves more successfully after, therefore, they have become successful. It is very easy, it is making easier any goal setting also, because as you know, if you're a coach yourself, many people who come to therapy have a list like that of what they hate about their life and about themselves, and they seldom have any sort of equal list about what they want or how more joyful and grateful they will be once all of this shit is over. The fact of telling them after all of those problems are gone, it is helping their mind to build a strong new direction for where they want to go. Number 13, intention. This one is trickier. It is about reframing, so we can slightly get into sleight of mouth, which is another topic, but the word intention is to be used whenever they think your intention, therefore, is negative, is bad, which is kind of the norm when you talk about hypnosis, about money, or about politics, and about religion, unless they already believe in the God you believe into. Trickier topic, I know. So you can say, my intention has nothing to do with those things you hate, and you are right to hate those things, because indeed some religious people have been molesting children when they were 5 years old, and my intention as a priest, which I'm not in any way, but just to play the devil's advocate here, my intention as a priest has nothing to do with this. It is to enlighten people, or I'm not sure what they say, but you can use the word my intention if you know you have good intentions, and if somebody is criticizing you because they think you just want bad for them, you just want to manipulate them. And in some contexts, yes, some people will be manipulative, in which case the mastery of this language will be of great use to defend yourself against such people. And if you are yourself a person with good intentions and somebody is criticizing you and don't want to work with you because they think you're a shady person, you can use that word. Listen, if I may allow myself to say it, if you allow me to say that, my intention, I would like to explain, has nothing to do with this. My intention is actually X, Y, Z. Whatever you say, my intention is this. In the same way, if you have some reluctance with somebody to work with them in a company, for example, a business deal or anything, you may say, you know, Johnny, without any disrespect, with all my respect to you and your firm, I feel like, or I guess, your intention is this and this and that. I'm scared, and you can say no problem, I am scared that if we work together, your intention will be to destroy those people's jobs or whatever. You can say it, and then the person will have to clarify, which is great for positive communication in any kind of conflict. Number 14, the word surprisingly. Tough to say. Surprisingly. Surprisingly will make pass something they never thought they would agree with, or something maybe they never thought they could achieve. If you say, again, I would suggest to use that more with your own backstory. I think it is easier that way than trying to presuppose that they will be surprised about how happier they will be once they buy your book or whatever, referring to somebody who tried to sell me a Scientology book in the streets. Problem was that it was me, so yeah, that person had a really bad time that day, but anyway, story for another time. And you might say, you know, I felt like you in the past, I know you hate hypnosis, you hate capitalism, you hate this, you hate Christianism. Anything the person criticizes about what you say, anything, you can say, before that point, Robert, I was definitely concerned about this the same way you are right now. Not joking, it was really the case. And someday I was surprised, because I discovered this thing I didn't know about hypnosis, about capitalism, about socialism, about Donald Trump, about Joe Biden, about anyone. Just something that is very controversial. The fact of saying I was surprised of discovering X or Y will make the next thing you say easier to pass, and if there was some conflict between you and the person, that may ease the tension. I'm not pretending it will just make the person change their mind and believe everything you want them to believe, not if that violates their value system, not at all, but at least it may ease down the tension, and it may give a more productive communication, which is my big intent, to produce more productive communications and conversations in the world. You can make a more productive conversation if you ease down the tension by saying, you know, I used to feel like you, and someday I was surprised to discover my negative assumptions about this topic or that politician or whatever was not completely true. And that person or that religion or whatever also did some pretty interesting good things. If you try to force the person to believe that, they will resist anyway. But if you say, I was surprised to discover, surprisingly, I noticed that person has also did a few good things. Not dismissing the bad things he or she did, for sure. Just that I discovered there were also some good positive things. And I was surprised about that. Number 15, the modal operator may or might, I might do, you may do that, you may consider, you might someday imagine you could do this. This modal operator is very useful whenever you talk about something and you're still not sure they are going to agree with you or accept the suggestion. You see that being used many times in street hypnosis. Those guys who go in the street and try to hypnotize girls, usually, because it works on YouTube, obviously, and they, in the beginning, when the person is not really receptive or didn't show yet huge signs of being receptive to the trance or anything, they will use modal operators such as, what if you could, if I may ask you, what would it look like if you were to drop into a trance? If you might consider the option of letting go. You might consider, I may ask you. It is much more permissive and it gives room for the person to say no, which means they will resist less. And the more they head nod and say yes, or like kind of become receptive to what you say, the more you can use stronger language, like now do this, you're going to experience that right now, say this, do that. Those very authoritative commands work more once you have given more permissive language, unless you are into the army or in any kind of social context where there is a huge hierarchy and you are being seen as a source of authority already. In that case, don't waste time. But if you're not a source of authority in the eyes of the person yet, then using permissive language like may, might, could, an option eventually will make it easier to let the person find their own way to agree with you and accept your legitimate authority on the topics you're talking about. Number 16, forget. Very often used by hypnotists to create amnesia in a session, positive amnesia of the negative things they want to be able to get past once and for all. The word forget, a verb again, is used to get away from any negative emotions or thoughts that have been bothering the person for a while. Obviously, the goal is not to make them try to suppress anything that needs to be discussed, anything that they have still massive wounds or trauma about. If that is the case, obviously you need to talk about it and clarify what happened, why do you think you're still being caught mentally or emotionally by those events in the past. Then do some healing work, any kind of hypnotic technique like age regression or anything, or like the 6-step reframing. Anything you know can work here to make the person ease down maybe the emotional triggers they still have about their trauma or something like that. Then you can add a new post-hypnotic suggestion by saying, and once you have been able to forget all of those negative memories, once they feel more lightened about it, obviously. Once they feel relieved, you can say, I am wondering what would happen if you could completely forget about all of that once and for all. You know, those memories will be somewhere in the back of your mind. It is just that they won't need anymore to come back into your consciousness at all, because they will just be buried in a place of your mind where thoughts don't bother you anymore. That is a good suggestion in a hypnotic session whenever you want to help the person build more successful habits and more positive envisioning for their future, where they won't be bothered anymore by the failures of their past, by the guilt of the things they failed at, or like they think they failed at, all the things they feel burdened about. When you can make them forget, not in a suppressive way, but in a healthy way of getting past all your burden or your trauma, getting past the negative memories, because you know it is the past anyway, and now you have the right to move forward in life and to reinvent yourself also sometimes. And finally, number 17, the word now. Now will be used very many times by NLP people, hypnotists of all sorts, to bring back the consciousness of the person in the present moment here with you. Many people, if we are being honest for 2 seconds, are not really listening to you that much. Even you right now on YouTube, you may be scrolling something else as I am speaking, in which case you can stop now and come back here, and you may just be thinking about other things. And that happens every day into your communication, into your conversations. Many people won't really pay attention that much, and using the word now more often into your sentences can help pause all the overthinking, all the rationalization of, yeah, I don't really believe in that because blah, 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 blah. You can stop all that inner narrative, all that inner talk, and make them associate fully with what you say in the present moment. In which case, any kind of suggestion you make will be received much more easily, because their attention was already here with you and not in the back of their head, arguing with themselves about should they believe that, and they don't believe you because we just get rid of that, get away from all of that, and center their attention back here and now, so that their mind becomes more involved into what we say. That was all for today. If you want to discover more techniques and how to make all of those language patterns a part of who you are as a person, you have a document down below called The 7 Steps to Master Sleight of Mouth that you can put into use right now. It will give you examples for real-life situations for how to use language patterns of any kind whenever you are getting stuck in a conversation and whenever you want to help people move forward in their life and when you notice they have trouble doing so. It is down below. Thank you for watching. Keep listening, keep moving on, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.